welcome to another very special episode of E&Ftv's Bridging the Gap. And today I'm joined by an esteemed panel, loads of people that I like to discuss one of my favourite topics, which is imposter syndrome. So yeah, welcome guys. Let's go around the room, I suppose, and do a few intros. So starting with my top left, Anna.
Hi, yeah, so I'm Anna and I'm Director of Revenue at the Newman Hotel in London.
Emily, you're on mute, Emily.
Sorry.
Honestly.
Hi. I'll do it again. Hi, I'm Emily Edwards. I'm a career coach and commercial trainer for the travel industry.
Jodie.
Hi, yeah, I'm Jodie Wright. I am Chief Commercial Officer for Crerar Hotels. We've got 10 hotels, primarily Scotland, with one in the Lake District.
I love hearing a northern voice on these things. It's
I'm
always
so
Londoners,
northern
isn't
on
it?
these as well. I sound even more northern, so I have been
Well, you got a friend in me, Jodie. You got a friend in
I've been
me.
to Oasis recently, so Mancunians come out even more. So yeah.
Brilliant. Bharat,
Hi, I'm Bharat, and I am a soon-to-be graduate from Manchester Metropolitan University.
and you're also working at the Lowry at the minute.
Yeah, well, as a part-time, but I am working at the Lowry.
Amazing.
Brilliant. So this came about just purely by chance because I had a couple of conversations. Anna and I appeared on a panel at Bankside a couple of months ago. We were chatting informally about imposter syndrome. Jodie, you and I have chatted like before about it and kind of shared experiences about it. Um, Emily, you're obviously a career coach who is resident expert on these things. So I kind of pulled you in to I suppose, give us some advice on screen. And I'm always keen to get a student or recent grad on these panel discussions because I think they can give a really kind of different perspective. Maybe not that I'm saying that we're super old. Maybe I am, but give a younger person's perspective on kind of how it affects them as well. So I thought it'd be quite nice just to start with a little bit of, and we're going to have to be, we're going to put our honesty caps on here, but to give a little bit of an experience of how, I suppose, how we've experienced imposter syndrome, in terms of how it's manifested physically, how it's made us feel, and gives a bit of a run through on kind of the situation. So, I'll start. I remember the one that comes to mind with me as a younger man. I was M&E manager or sales manager or something like that, and I was every year we had the business plan in October or September or something like that, and all the heads of department were pulled in, and it was a day where you were sat around a boardroom table, and every department had to do a presentation, and the owners came, and all the bigwigs came. Oh, I'd never done anything like this before. I was absolutely terrified. So, sleepless night the night before, lots of coffee on the morning, turn up, just, your presentation would maybe be in the afternoon, so you have to sit through them all in the morning. When I came to deliver, I was just a mess. So it manifested with me in this horrible shaky voice when I was trying to kind of articulate what I meant, like, oh, like it
Mhm.
sounded really horrible. My palms were sweating, my head, I was just discombobulated. That's kind of what leaps out when I think of kind of times when I've had imposter syndrome, or the one that kind of was most, I suppose, is most memorable for me. Anna, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think really for me, it's mainly the feeling of self-doubt. And it's interesting that, Jason, obviously you reflected on something at the beginning of your career. And I feel that, honestly, imposter syndrome has pretty much followed me throughout my career. I think when I was young and, graduated university, I was thinking, okay, well, I'm feeling this because, I don't have the experience that everyone else has in the room or etc. But the feeling just doesn't really go away. And I think you just need to learn to manage it kind of throughout as you move along with your career. So yeah, I mean, in terms of how it manifests, is kind of yeah. I mean, a feeling of anxiety, kind of what you discussed. Jason, sort of like sweaty palms and maybe a shaky voice, and yeah, this and this used to be maybe prior to interviews. I mean, still always prior to interviews, but also, prior to any important meetings, or maybe not so much important meetings. It just sometimes, I think, can come onto you when you just, a thought pops in your head thinking, oh, what if I'm going to say if somebody asks me this? And you feel maybe that your answer is not going to be good enough. So again, kind of just going back to that self-doubt and maybe a kind of thinking that you've achieved something purely because of some external factors and not because of how hard you've worked for something in the past.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So my I think my imposter syndrome still lives, but it's faded. Like the big imposter guy when I was 19 to 30 or something like that has shrunk a little bit as I've kind of grown. But with you, Anna, it's stayed the same. That kind of that voice in your head has kind of stayed just as loud as it was when you were younger, Anna.
No, I think it has faded slightly. I think, or maybe not so much faded. I manage it better.
Okay, interesting. Emily's making notes, thinking, "Yeah, definitely going to bring this up later and drill down into this." Jodie, tell us about you.
Ugh, kind of echo what both of you have said, but I think mine, I'll flip it a little bit. I think when I was younger, I didn't go to uni. I kind of grew up in not the best area of Manchester, didn't really have not much belief in me to do anything. So I've worked really, really hard to get where I am. And I think because I haven't had that education as such growing up, I feel like I don't deserve what I have now. And I think that is something that's always with me. I don't think I'll ever lose it, to be honest. I don't think it'll ever, I think, you know how I feel about my title. I get embarrassed about it. I don't feel like I deserve that. I've been told to own that. I feel for me, I'm constantly doing more and going over and sacrificing more to prove myself. And I don't know who I'm proving it to be honest, because I know the key people in my life, like yourself and Tom and, like people like Adrian, Hannah and stuff, I know they all believe in me and know I can do what I'm doing now. But for me, I think it's myself I'm trying to prove it to. And I don't know how far I have to go to start believing that I'm kind of where I am. It's really hard to explain. I think for me, I'm always working longer. I'm always over preparing. I'm always doing more to prove that I belong where I am. And I think as a female, I will put that out there, it may, ruffle a few feathers, but it is harder as a female. And I continue to think I have to do more and I have to know everything and I have to have the answer to everything. And I have to fix everything. And yeah, but I'll go with what Tom said to me once. It is a superpower because it keeps me honest, it keeps me grounded. It helps me drive the teams and support the teams in a way that maybe someone who has never felt this way can do. So I kind of try and use it now to my advantage. And people tend to know what they get from me is this. So I know I'm transparent and people hold value in that more than most things. So yeah, so for me, it's been debilitating over the years. I can't say that I go into board meetings now and I still like feel sick sometimes, but that's because I care and I want to do the best. It's not. And yeah, so we could probably talk about this all day with me. So it's like therapy.
With all of us, yeah. Because I mean, we could all draw on so many different experiences
Yeah.
and talk like just so naturally about it.
Yeah.
But firstly, like, thank you, like both for being so honest about it. Firstly, because this only works if we're all super honest. And secondly, that's really interesting. Imposter syndrome as a drive to do more, to do better. Is that healthy? Is that unhealthy? We'll go on to that in a minute. Bharat, tell me about your experience. How is this relevant for you as a younger person, someone just graduating, going out into the industry? What are your thoughts on it, and what's your experiences of it in the past?
So, I've first experienced imposter syndrome when I first came to the UK as a student. It was the first time I'd ever been to the UK and ever been outside my country as well. So for me, imposter syndrome had many layers because Um, it's a new place, so there's a lot of new people, and those people not don't necessarily even look the same as me. They don't speak the same as me, and um, that also kind of manifests as imposter syndrome because I'm so different. And then from a careers point of view, the my first job was at the Lowry Hotel. Uh, I work as a casual or 0 hour employee in the F&B department, and I think I felt the worst of it when it was my first day, and everybody else knew everything, where things are kept and where to go and who to talk to about anything. So that also kind of manifested as imposter syndrome. And the work itself was simple, but it's just the alien setting of it kind of im impacted the imposter syndrome as well. But I got through it by kind of just immersing myself into everything, really immersing myself at university and at work and with friends, and just, as for me, as the more familiar I became with everything, the less of an imposter I felt like. And yeah, and then in final year, we have a mentorship scheme at MMU, and they pair you with a general manager that sort of mentors you throughout the year. And these relationships last even beyond the academic year and sometimes for life. And I was lucky enough to get Vicky Marshman, the general manager at the Lowry, as my mentor. So I was already familiar with the place. And then when I started meeting with Vicky, and she had me spend time with all the directors and the managers there, and even sat in some meetings with her. So even that kind of just becoming familiar with everyone and getting to know more people on a deeper level than just, oh, that's a director, or that's the director of HR. And that also helped me overcome imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you mentioned coming over to this country, immigration, because you mentioned it the other day to me when we chatted off screen. And I'd never even considered that actually, how that might play in. Somebody coming over to the country, maybe English is not their first language. And when I ran it over in my head, I thought that must massively contribute to a feeling of imposter syndrome. If you go into a workplace, just theoretically, where English is everyone's first language, people have been there a long time. There's there's the cultural aspect, isn't there, to it, which I kind of never considered. So, that's a brilliant point. And again, thank you for being so honest about it. Emily, feel free to share an experience with us. And feel free also to demystify this a little bit for us, because from a psychological point of view, from a physiological point of view, why does this happen? Why are we suffering like this?
Yeah, well, it's really normal. So I think that it's great that we're all talking about it, and I love the honesty that you've all shared with. I felt imposter syndrome about 17 minutes ago when you said I'm the resident expert. So even people that have done a lot of work on it can still
You're
feel like
funny.
they're an imposter. No, no, I really felt it. It's like, and I think the more honest we are, the better, right? So I
Yeah.
have been taking notes because there's some really, really classic examples of things that tie in with imposter syndrome that you've all been talking about. Um, it might not feel like it's at all helpful. It might feel really unhelpful most of the time, like especially when you need to do a presentation or an interview and your voice is shaking and your palms are sweaty. You're like, how is this helping me? But it's actually our brain trying to keep us safe. So there's a bit that is called the amygdala, which is all about keeping us safe. And some people call it the reptile brain because it's really just a animal reaction to things that are scary, new, out of our comfort zone. So whenever we try and do something new, stretch our comfort zone, go from being a student to being an employee, go from being an individual contributor to a manager, move to a new country. That's a great example. This is way out of our comfort zone. And this little bit of our brain is saying, no, red flag, we're in the wrong place. This is scary. We need to go back to what we know. And that bit of the brain is responsible for our fight and flight response. So that's why we get the shaky hands and everything. It's because you've got adrenaline and cortisol rushing around your body so that you're ready to like fight a saber-toothed tiger, except you're trying to do a presentation. So it's not very helpful in that situation. But this bit of the brain is so sort of primitive. It doesn't know that. It's just like, we're in danger. We're in the wrong place. We need to get out. And the reason that there's kind of that imposter feeling is because then there's other parts of the brain, the more human, rational parts of the brain, like your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for solving problems and making decisions. That's already decided, I need a new job, so I'm going to go for an interview. And then only when you get into the interview, the amygdala goes, oh my God, we're in the wrong place. This is terrifying. We need to run away. So that's why there's this kind of clash feeling of, I want to do it, but I'm also scared of doing it. So I did a survey this year of people in the travel industry and how they're feeling in their careers and their challenges. And what was really interesting was feeling self-doubt or imposter syndrome came up for a lot of people. But for people that weren't happy with where they were in their careers, it was at about 33% said they felt it. But for people that were happy in their careers, 75% of people felt it. So this might seem weird, and you might think people that are happy in their careers are just enjoying every moment. But actually, it's those people that make big changes and also care about what they're doing. I think both Anna and Jodie mentioned that when you care about something like an interview or care about doing your job well, that's when this is most triggered because it is more important to you. If you don't care about the thing, there's no threat to you as a person, right? Like, do a bad job of ordering McDonald's and there's no threat to your existence, but do a bad job in an interview, do a bad job at a presentation, it feels like there's a threat to us. So that's what creates the nervous response. Do you want me to keep talking or shall I stop for a moment?
No, it's so interesting, and I think I'd noted down fight or flight because I had a feeling it was something to do with that. Am I right in saying that? I mean, this is something that I've kind of researched quite a lot with things that have been going on in my life over the past 18 months, and indeed you did some live coaching with me maybe 6 months ago, didn't you? Which uncovered quite a lot on the episode. Am I right in saying that the human brain has not evolved from, this kind of thing kept us safe, thousands of years ago from saber-toothed tigers, as you say, and the human brain's not evolved to kind of know the difference between that. And we're no longer under that primitive threat of being eaten by a bear. So because the brain is so intelligent, but so stupid at the same time, isn't it? It's like a paradox.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying right? Is it just the fact that there aren't tigers eating us anymore? So the brain's looking for something to be fearful of.
It's aware of things to be fearful of and it wants to keep things the same, but we still have physical danger, right? Like if you step into the road and a car honks at you, you're still going to get that response. Or if I don't know, if you're out late at night and someone's involved in a fight nearby you, even though you're not in the fight, you'll still feel that like rush of adrenaline and stuff. So there's still a need for like a physical response. It's just it doesn't know when the physical danger is there or when the non-physical danger is there. And often the thoughts we have, the thought patterns we have are what tells our body to be scared or not scared, essentially. So if you go into a meeting thinking, oh my God, I'm so nervous, this is so worrying, what if I say something wrong? All of those thoughts are actually telling our brain and body this is a scary situation. So that's why it's reacting as well. So easier said than done, although I can share some tips later. But the more we can change the way we think about the situations, as well as calming down our body, the more we can calm down that reaction and that imposter syndrome feeling as well.
Are certain people more susceptible than others to this? Do the four of us all share certain characteristics that make us more susceptible to it?
I wouldn't think so. I think it's much more common than you realise. And the people that are happy to talk about it are the people that share the characteristic of being open and vulnerable. There's a lady called Claire Yosser that's done a lot of research on imposter syndrome, and I think she found something like 85% of people feel it. And it's just as prevalent in men and women, apparently, although it can demonstrate differently in men and women because of our social conditioning, but still just as many men as women feel it as well.
I think we've all mentioned how we've kind of, Anna, you certainly did, how you deal with it kind of better now than you used to. If we kind of just go around and talk about what we've kind of done, maybe off our own bat, maybe advice we've taken from people like Emily or bosses or whoever, family members throughout our life to kind of deal with it better. What kind of stuff are you doing now that you didn't used to do, Anna?
So I think what I do now is more being a little bit more aware of what it is I'm feeling. So, and I think that mainly maybe more comes with, as I kind of age and, have more experience of working within hospitality, but also just maturing myself as an individual. But kind of, I mean, I think it's important to also just self-reflect and take that time to self-reflect and just remind yourself, okay, this is what I've achieved. Staying humble and not necessarily going on bragging about it, but actually just to keeping yourself in those moments when you do feel, oh my God, am I going to be a complete failure in this? And why am I sitting in this big room where everyone here has 20 years more experience than me, and they're all worked in this industry for much longer? And then actually you realize that, well, you have put the work in, you've put the hours in, and you are here because you belong here again, because you've gone through the interview process. Some interviews within this industry, maybe there are 3, 4, 5 stages, and you've gone through this process and now you're here. So I think it's just important to also recognize that. Also, maybe exactly what what Emily said about that majority of people also do feel it. So again, just reminding myself maybe that it's not just me who's feeling this. And I think partially also why I'm doing this podcast is just to kind of also just share, and learn from other people how they feel about this. But I think in the beginning, and it's interesting, also just wanted to reflect on, what, Bharat was saying about being a newbie somewhere. For me, I think the biggest imposter syndrome I've ever felt in my life was when I started my first ever job in London. Because previously I was working on the outskirts of London in a country club hotel. And then suddenly I found myself in a luxury hotel in London where I was just completely overwhelmed at one point. And then my boss, who was the revenue director at the time, became my mentor. And he has helped me also to go through that process of, okay, this is what we do and this is how we're going to get you to, get you where you want to be. And I think where I'm leading with this is that is still something that I use, not just self-reflection, but also speaking to other people, still keep in touch with that person and say, look, I'm now director of revenue, but there's this thing has come up, or how would you deal with certain situations? Just ask for advice, I think, and just recognize that you can do that and it's allowed. You don't need to have the answers to everything and deal with everything on your own.
I think ability to reflect is really interesting because we're relentlessly looking forward, aren't we? How often do we kind of maybe on holiday, but how often do we just sit around and just reflect on what's gone on, not just in that day or week, but in our career, like and look back. Is that an important point, Emily, that Anna's just made about self-reflection in dealing with imposter syndrome?
Yes, I think so. And the reason is because you're actually you're kind of catching up with your identity. So this lizard brain that's trying to keep you safe thinks that you're, I don't know, 12 maybe. And the more that you can help it understand that, no, actually, I'm not 12, I'm a senior experienced person. I've got here because I've studied and I've worked and I've got qualifications. The more that it understands that and identifies as that thing, the less gap there is between where it thinks you are and where it's trying to keep you safe from. So that's really a great tip. And that's one of the sort of tools that you can use is have a think of like, who are you to do that job? Because often imposter syndrome asks us these questions, right? Who am I to do this? I'm going to get found out. They're going to see through me. It's all like about our identity crisis. Am I really in the right place? And so if you can answer that question, who am I to do this? And I love the answers to be in an I am format, not I have or I do, because that's the question your brain is asking, like, who am I? If you can have a great answer for that, just a quick, snappy answer, that every time your brain asks you those questions, you can be like, this is who I am. And it trains it to be like, oh, that's who I am. Okay, that's our identity now, which means I don't have to be so scared about doing these things. They're not so far away from where I thought I was as a kind of helpless child human.
So a little twist on how you talk to yourself is important there.
Yeah.
Good. Jodie, how have you dealt with things in terms of imposter syndrome?
I think age just come into it, doesn't it, Jason? Like I think as you get older, like, I think you touched on it earlier on, you see
I like
things.
how you pinpoint me with the age thing there.
Well, we had this conversation the other day about OHPs, didn't we? So I thought, we're there, aren't we?
What is it, the grey hair, the receding? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what it
Um,
is.
I think for me, it's being honest, and I think Emily said people talking about it more. I think from my progression, the career I've had, it's always been a challenge. It's always been a tool, I think, for people to manipulate you in this industry as well. And I've kind of been through that in jobs when I was younger and it being seen as a weakness and then using that against me. And the way I've combat that is to work with people I trust, to surround myself with people I can talk to. I've got, there's plenty of people out there now that I talk to on a regular basis, even mentor or, personally, just to talk this through with sometimes because you need a different perspective. I think that helps. Someone who's maybe not in this industry. I think when you're in hospitality, it's such a different world to most industries out there. So you do need a different perspective than someone in the industry sometimes to help you kind of navigate it. I think as we just said, we're talking about it more. It's not seen as a weakness. For me, for so long, it was, my biggest strength is my biggest weakness. But now it's who I am, but it drives me. So it is enabling me to just keep pushing myself. Every day I have the conversation with myself, how did I get here? I don't think I'll ever lose that. And I'm just being really honest. Everyone knows I'm honest about that. I think it'll always stay with me. It's been with me for 40 years, so I don't think that'll ever change. I just need to reframe it. I think, like Emily said, talk to myself in a different way. Talk about the achievements. I never do that. I am really guilty. I talk about my team's achievements. I talk about the business achievements. I talk about everyone else, but not myself. And I find it really difficult to talk about. And I think I need to get comfortable with that. And I think that's kind of part of my development as well, is to get comfortable with achieving and doing well. And because, Jason, one of my biggest things that I really want to do when I, can is to work with people in underprivileged areas to get them in this industry and to give them a voice and to really help them. And that's what I really want to do. And I think experiencing what I've experienced and how I feel can show people that anyone can do anything. And it's one of my biggest, but I need to get over my blockers to be able to support people and get them where they need to be. And I think, for me, it's about, I probably need coaching from you, Emily. So
I'll call you afterwards.
Mates race.
but talking about it, I think, is, and not to feel uncomfortable and to feel that you're not worthy to go for another job. We're talking about this today. In my head, I'm reflecting, how does that look, to someone who I could potentially work for in the future? How does that look to my current employees that I'm talking about this? But, I think we have to talk about it because, as you said, most people do suffer from it. They just might not talk about it. So.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that there's a lot to unpack in what you said, but firstly, age has been mentioned, Jodie, Anna, and me as well. Not Bharat, 'cause he's too young to know about age, but I think this is really interesting because I was thinking while you were talking. I've always kind of been a little bit intimidated up to a certain age by people that are older than me. And whether that's got its roots in school, at school there's a hierarchy, isn't there? You're in year 9, you don't mess with a year 10 or a year 11. There's a pecking order there, and a lot of it is down to age. I kind of certainly carried that. Like you, Jodie, I never went to university. Um, like you, I'm from a poor, starving old pit town in the north where no good ever came to anyone. So I identify a lot with kind of what you're saying. I do. But the age thing has stuck with me. Not so much now, but certainly starting out, just taking the bookings for special events in a hotel, and certainly most people were older than me at the age of 19.
Yeah.
But I now find that naturally, endemically, as you kind of get older, fewer people are older than you, and that's kind of helped me a little bit with my imposter syndrome. I'm now at the stage, I'm 44, where people kind of come to me for advice and maybe feel that being around me, especially in what I do, not so much in recruitment, but these kind of stuff with guest lecturing at universities and having a lot to do with students. I kind of feel maybe people are like that around me, whereas I used to be like that around other people. Is the age thing, does that make any sense to you, Emily, at all, the age thing? Is that normal? Is that natural? Is that a
Yeah,
figment
I
of our
think
imagination?
no, I think it is normal, and I've got about three concurrent answers in my head. So the first one I'm going to give is I read this amazing blog called High Agency. You can find it on highagency.com. And one of the main points of this is about taking more control of your life. And one of the points it says is there are no adults. We all think that someone knows more than us and that someone else is going to have the right answer and that someone else knows what to do and that we are not the ones that know how to do everything. But the point is that nobody knows how to do anything. Everyone's making it up or learning as they go along. So I
Yeah,
think that you probably learn that more as you become older. You realize that other people are also winging it. Other people are scared. Other people make mistakes. And I think it would do everyone a lot of good to learn that as young as possible because it means that you can take more control and just try things and make mistakes. That was the first thing that
yeah,
popped into my head. The second thing is that it might not feel much different to you now versus being 19, but you have a wealth of experience under your belt. And what you've done is every time you've done something new, traveled to a new country, worked with a new boss, you've expanded your comfort zone so that your brain doesn't feel like this is so terrifying to do this anymore. When you're 19, you may never have left the country. You've never had a job before. You've never lived on your own before. You've never had to cook, do laundry. Like imagine, just remember how much stuff was new to you then. And as you've done it, you've gained experience and you're showing yourself that you can do difficult things. And the things that you thought were difficult then, you could do now with your eyes closed. So as you gain
yeah,
that experience under your belt, you become more confident in yourself and reach a point where you feel that you can sort of look after yourself in a sense. So off the back of my survey, I've written a white paper, which everyone can download for free. There's a pyramid of the steps we need to take to really kind of reach fulfillment in our careers, but also in our lives, really. And the first few steps are about having a feeling of safety and control, so knowing where we want to go and how we're going to get there. And then the next step is about having that sense of community, so talking to people, getting mentors, getting coaches, having a network. The next one is about more finding purpose and balance. So like, why are you doing what you're doing? And how are you going to do it in a way that suits you, your energy, your personality? And once you've got those things quite stabilized, you kind of reach this, I call it the thriving threshold, because from there, you know that whatever happens, you'll be able to sort yourself out. You might lose a job, but you know you can get another one. You might screw up a presentation, but you know that that's not going to get you fired because you've got experience of that in the past now, or you can explain your way out of
yeah.
a problem. And once you've got that, then you'll just get a lot more headspace and you can be more creative and have a bit more fun. And that's where you can do stuff like, Jason, now you're doing a podcast. Did you ever think at 19 you'd be running a podcast? No, because you're probably worried about how to pay your rent. So once you kind of develop like that, you get a lot more headspace coming to you, which is a natural part of aging, I think.
Podcasts weren't around when I was 19, Emily.
I was gonna say that.
They weren't around when I was 19 either. So you definitely wouldn't have imagined you were doing it.
Bharat, how does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I can definitely relate to all the age talk, obviously not about being 44, but uh, that process of, uh,
Turn him off, turn him off.
but that process of doing something that you've never done before and learning that, oh, this is not that hard, I can do this. And just repetition as well, doing it over and over again also cements that idea that yeah, I can do this. It's not hard. What was I so worried about? And um, but I will say that in interviews or um, it in the current job environment, as someone was starting, it does get a bit intimidating because I've attended multiple assessment days where other candidates have at least a decade of experience and sometimes even 2 decades, people who are looking to switch careers, and you're competing with these people for a graduate level job. So that also does get very intimidating. And um, I've even asked myself, like, if people with so much experience are applying for the same job, then what am I doing and what would I bring to the table that they don't? So it does flare up in situations like that. Um, but and to be honest, I haven't really found a good way to deal with that. But what I do try to do is just relax myself, smile more, and you know, talk to others, even talk to myself, and just tell myself to just chill out, and just uh, take in everything that's happening.
Yeah. No, it's sage advice, definitely. I think one thing that's helped me is just a growing appreciation, and I know you all, right, and I know that this will kind of resonate with you, but I've kind of learned as I have got older that people are people. So I'll talk to the cleaner the same as I would the CEO. So I kind of, and I can see you nodding because I know the kind of people you are and you're good people, and you'll do this as well. But I think just that leveling of everyone being on the same playing field is really kind of helped me with imposter syndrome, I think. I remember I remember being in Meadow Hall shopping centre. I must have been about 12 or something like that in Sheffield. And I'm always showing my age here, aren't I? But Stephen Hendry, the snooker player, was in this gets worse, in Sweater Shop in Meadow Hall, and he was signing things. And I remember I was with my friend and his mum worked in a House of Fraser and we met her on a lunch break and we were both like, it's like, have you, like, Stephen Hendry's in Sweater Shop, so we're going to join the queue and we're going to meet him and he's famous. And we were totally like starstruck, like proper fangirling. And I think back to that person now. And I was only 11 then, but I'm totally not that person anymore. I honestly think if I met someone famous now, it wouldn't really scare me on that. I wouldn't get imposter syndrome, and I think that's partly down to kind of maybe I'm rambling a bit here, but I think that's down to that attitude of treating everyone the same, whether you are a beggar in the street or whether you're the CEO of whatever, that guy at the Coldplay concert. Well, let's not go there because we've only got about 15 minutes left on this. But I think that's kind of helped me. Has does that resonate with you guys? Have you guys, have you got the same attitude that I've got about that? Like,
I'm really
Jodie.
similar with that, Jason, definitely. I yeah, I try and if I go to our hotels or even when I don't know, I meet people and I have to say where I'm from, I just say who I am normally. I don't say what my job is. I just kind of go, I'm Jodie from, head office. I don't say who I am because I don't want people to know me for a title. I want them to know me for me.
Yeah,
And I always feel removing titles and hierarchy kind of puts people at ease and kind of puts you as more of the human versus some faceless title who sits in a head office. So
good.
that's
Yeah,
and I think that's how I'll always be. I don't think I'll ever
yeah,
change. I think that's I totally agree with you. I hate even when people ask what car, like if you've got a car in the drive and is that your car, and I get embarrassed about the most simple things like that because it's not about the materialistic things, and I think that does help. I think, yeah, definitely. I'm rambling on now a bit too, but yeah, I'm with you on that.
no, no, yeah. I just wanted someone to support me on
Yeah, I support
that.
you.
Emily, how we've talked about how we have dealt with it and what's worked for us. How should we be dealing with it?
Um, Well, I think we don't necessarily need it to disappear because it's not going to disappear. And I think that being
Yeah.
self-aware about it is a great first step that we've already talked about. Um, how one great way to deal with it in the moment when you're feeling it, because you're in your fight or flight response, right? So you've got the adrenaline, the cortisol, and that's what is making you sweaty and your voice shake, is to calm down your nervous system. So you want to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is all about resting and digesting, so that you go into your meeting feeling totally zen and calm, which is going to help the mind calm down as well. So one way to do that is move, like literally like shake your body. It's great if you're working from home because you can just switch your camera off for 5 minutes between meetings and like shake around the room, do some dancing, do some singing. That kind of thing is great just to get all those like hormones out. Deep breathing. So any kind of, meditation practice, deep breathing, yoga practice, stuff like that is really good, whether you can do it regularly or just in the few moments before an important meeting. And another one that's really, I love is humming. So if you hum, like a relatively low hum, so it's like where your Adam's apple would be when you feel it in your throat. Just a constant hum, that activates the vagus nerve, which calms everything down. And this is great because you can do it when you're in a virtual meeting, just put yourself on mute and just hum to yourself. And it really just brings your body's reaction back down to being a bit calmer, so you're not having those physical reactions. That's one for the physical stuff. I shared a couple, so that who am I to do this, I think it's great to have an answer for. I love that Jodie shared about getting perspective from a friend, because that's another one where we get distance or perspective. You can either talk to a friend, you can ask yourself, what would my best friend say, or what would my mum say to me in this situation? Or another one that I use with my clients sometimes is to imagine that you're floating above yourself and you see yourself from the outside. Because what that does is take you out of that like reptile brain response of being like, oh, we're in a dangerous situation. And when you're getting a bit of perspective or distance, you can look and say, well, actually, I've been in this role for 5 years. I've done these things. I've achieved this, like Anna was saying. And that helps you kind of to recalibrate a little bit about your identity and who you think you are and who you think you need to be successful. So that's my few top tips.
And I love the fact that they're so concrete. They're not abstract. The things that you can go away and do. Andrew Huberman does the breathing thing. So his advice is to take a deep breath in through your nose until you can't take any more, then sneak a little bit more in, and then a long, slow exhale. And apparently that kind of activates that parasympathetic nervous system. And it's like an instant kind of calming thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Even a loud sigh is another one. You know when you've like been out on a long walk or something and get home and have a cup of tea and you sit on the sofa and you go, like that is activating your vagus nerve and helping you calm down. Like we do it instinctively. So if you can just do that a couple of times before a meeting, like just go to the toilets and do it or something if you're in person, that can
yeah.
just take the edge off as well.
Yeah, I've often I can do this because I work from home, and Tom's quite cool, so he lets me. But if I've got an important meeting coming up, I'll it's you'll probably know I love running, so I just go out for a 20-30 minute run or something like that. Get a cold shower when I come home, and I feel so much better having done some activity. I appreciate not everyone can do that, but yeah, the dancing around doing 20 burpees is I think good advice because action does beat anxiety. Does this, out of interest, does imposter syndrome, we've talked about this in a work context, does it affect anyone out of work? Can you think of any examples when it's affected you out of work? I mean, I'm just thinking earlier this morning that so I ran my first ultra marathon last September, um, and it was over in started from a little bit, not that this is relevant, but started from a little village called Hawes, went down over the Pennygent Mountain and back up again. But I remember being at the start line and I just like I'd made some terrible error anyway. I was carrying too much water, and if you've ever thought, if you're thinking water's not heavy, believe me, if you've got double the amount of water that you actually need, you're going to suffer. And I remember almost like waddling through the mud, going up out of this village, and just thinking, why? What am I doing? What am I doing here? I've made an elementary error that nobody. And everyone's like zipping up the hills and flying over the stiles and out into the distance and I was just like, I totally all I could keep doing was put one foot in front of the other because I'd totally got imposter syndrome at that point. Can anyone, Anna, have you got any kind of examples of when you felt it away from work? If you haven't, it's okay because I'm putting you on the spot here.
No, no. I did a spin class last night, And honestly, thank goodness I was in the back of the room because I felt that I do not belong there. And at one point, I honestly wanted to just sneak out through the door and pretend I never came. I finished it because I was, like you said, just keep one foot in front of the other. I stopped when I needed to, and I just carried on doing the best I could. It was my first one. I haven't exercised in years. I'm really trying to get back into it. But it's funny
Yeah.
that most of our examples are kind of sports related. Same like going to try and do a group tennis class. Again, I mean, even though I joined the beginner improver one, I'm like, really everyone there feel like so much better than me. Like people can serve
Yeah.
and do all sorts of things, and I'm just there with my tennis racket and like, okay, so yeah, definitely 100%. I think it comes from overthinking. Honestly, I think it all comes from you know not just going and just doing it. I think I think maybe as women also we tend to overanalyze things and go. Sometimes my trail of thought would take me somewhere where, and then I would try to explain it to my husband, and he's just like, how have you ended up there? Like we started here. So yeah, and I think it's definitely that kind of related from that chronic kind of overthinking to then thinking, okay, well, um, if I'm already so worried about this, should I even be doing this in the first place?
Yeah. Yeah. Jodie?
Yeah, I mean, very similar. The sport thing, definitely. I love running
Yeah.
too, but I won't do a park run or anything. I don't. I find it very overwhelming in groups. I used to go to like a boot camp every morning at 5 a.m. and I stopped going because I felt like I didn't. I don't know. It was really hard to explain. I just felt like I didn't belong in a group of doing something. So I
Okay.
tend to do solo things because I find it, yeah, again, it's probably a Jodieism. And then groups of friends, that's what I call it. My husband calls it a Jodieism. And groups of friends, I think I've always found it difficult and overwhelming when I've got like a larger group of friends and where I fit within that, and whether that
Yeah.
is kind of imposter syndrome or not. But then I question going to like Fit Mums, it was called, go into that because do I belong here? Are these people, do they really like me? And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and so yeah, so I think it does affect me in day to day, and I think exactly what Anna's just said. I think it goes back to our role, revenue people. We at the heart of it, overthink and overanalyze everything, and I think
Interesting.
I think I'm thinking about 10 years time, and my husband would be like, Dodie, we've not even got through this week. Like, why are you worried about that impacting 10 years time? And I'm like, well, but if this happens and this and this, and my head just goes in this like just spirals and out of
Yeah.
control. And it's like, how did we get here? And I'm like, well, so yeah, I think it does impact me too day to day.
Tendency to catastrophize and overthink are all characteristics of someone who may suffer from imposter syndrome, I think, aren't they? We've all done it. I think we've all walked into networking events and everybody's in the little twos, threes,
Yeah.
fours. And when you look around, you don't really know anyone, and you kind of, yeah, you feel like an idiot. Nothing worse. Bharat, has it affected you away from work or education? Can you think of any times in your life when you've kind of like suffered from it?
Yeah. I also have a sports related anecdote to share, but
Brilliant.
uh, last year I started playing cricket, and I my best friend was teaching me how to play and just get into the game. And this year I played my first ever game for university. It was a men's second team, so and I just remember when I got out to bat, I was batting at number 11, so dead last. And I got out to bat and I just took a look around, and it was in Sheffield. We were playing the University of Sheffield's, I think, uh, the third team. And yeah, I just remember thinking to myself, like, what am I doing here? Like, I should not be here. And everybody is way better at the sport than I am. And just, um, I remember that I was holding my cricket bat in my hands, and suddenly it just felt like it was 10 kgs. and uh, my hands became weightless. Like I could not feel what I was doing, and even when I was just standing and breathing, that also I was super aware of everything, and
Yeah,
am I standing right, and um, what do I do with my hands, or where do I look, those sorts
yeah.
of things. Um, but
I love this.
yeah, it was a good experience, and I am very proud of myself for getting to that stage. But um, being in that situation for the first time, it just felt like I stepped into a completely different world, and I should not be there. But
Yeah,
looking back, I'm very happy that I did that, and I still look at all the photos that my teammates took, all the videos they made of me batting, and I just go, uh, can't believe that was me.
brilliant. Well, listen, thanks for sharing that. I love it so much because it's so real. That what do I do with my hands?
Yeah.
How many times do you are you like doing this? Just why have I got these things on the ends of my wrists and they're so useless? I absolutely love it, honestly. I could talk about this for hours. Okay, no idea where we're at with this, but I just kind of getting to the end of the show. I mentioned several times Anna's got a meeting at 12, so we're going to have to wrap this up pretty soon. But I want to put you all on the spot a little bit, and obviously we get lots of students listening to the show, but also people from revenue management, from hospitality commercial. Um, so I just want to leave people with kind of one like top tip for managing imposter syndrome, and I'll go first. And I want to say, and I'm no expert because I still suffer from it now, as we all do, but I think what I'd say is try to reframe your attitude to failure. So see it as, there's that cheesy acronym, first attempt in learning, and I always tell my son that's first attempt in learning, or second or third. But I was listening to something like David Goggins the other day, and he said, I never fail. I might try once, twice, three, four, five times, but I never fail. And it's only kind of failure when you say, I'm not going to try again. And then, maybe you fail. But I think if you reframe that as like, what can I learn from it? Okay, so let's do some negative meditation almost like what kind of could go wrong? Let's prepare for it. If it does go wrong, what can we learn from it? And then if you eradicate failure, the possibility of it, if it doesn't exist anymore, if it's just a learning piece, what have we got? What are we, where's the imposter syndrome? What have we got to be worried about? That's my piece of advice. And I've waffled on that much. I've given you all loads of time to think of a cool answer. So Anna,
I think just what I was talking about, sort of self reflection, but also just preparation. Do your best. Know that if you're preparing for that interview, if you're preparing for a meeting, um, just um, just remind yourself that you've done all you could, and also about what Jason you said, not worrying about if it fails. So because at the end of the day, like Emily said, you're not going to get fired because of you couldn't give an answer to a question in a meeting. You can always say, I'll get back to you on that. So yeah. So I think that's from me: self-reflection and preparation.
brilliant. Jodie,
Similar to what you both said, but also surround yourself with a network of people, of mentors. You're never too senior or you're never too old to have a mentor. I've got some great ones out there. My new chair now is a great mentor and supporting me with my development too, and not seeing it as a weakness, highlighting that you need support with it and seeking out the right people in your network to help you navigate it and, get through it. So, yeah.
brilliant. Thank you. Bharat,
Yeah, my advice is also kind of similar, but just don't be afraid to make yourself look like a fool, or don't be afraid to mess up, because well, that's how you grow, and that's how people will tell you, people will teach you, uh, who have been more experienced and help you grow, and that's how you become more comfortable. Because if you say break a lot of plates in your mind, you're thinking, okay, it can't possibly go worse than that, so I now have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, yeah. Bharat, you're wise beyond your years. Emily
Yeah.
Edwards.
I was going to say, how did he get so wise so young? Um, I think my top tip is to spend time reflecting on who you are at your core and who you want to be going forwards, and get your brain used to that idea. So it could be every month I do a to-do list. So I look back at all the things I achieved and did in the month rather than looking forward at all the stuff I haven't done, to help my brain realize where we've got to. You might want to journal, you might want to have an affirmation that you say to yourself, like, I am the whatever. You might want to do a vision board if you're a visual person, or spend some time visualizing what your life's going to be like in 2 years, because anything you can do to get your brain to realize that you're in your comfort zone already helps you not to feel that imposter syndrome.
I love all the going back to sporting examples we all gave. I imagine Anna at the back of the spin class, Bharat not knowing what to do with his hands and his cricket bat, and Jodie in bed avoiding the park run. Guys, I'm not sure if I can help you with this. Jodie, I'm only an hour away from you, so if you want to do a park run together one Saturday morning, no problem. I'm injured at the minute, but
We could do a
sometime in the
podcast
future.
whilst running, so
Could do. The possibilities are endless. Guys, I want to thank you all for jumping on screen. We're exactly an hour. So I've really enjoyed the discussion, but it's only worked because you guys have been so honest and not guarded. And it's so important that we're putting this out to people, and people are going to watch it and say, you know what, I really enjoyed that, but also I can take a lot of practical advice from it. But also, I know that there's other people that feel like it. We've got director of revenue here, we've got a CCO. We all feel it regardless of our age, where we are, where we perceive that we are. So, but thank you all for your honesty. And yeah, let's do it again sometime.
definitely.
Thank you so
Okay.
much,
Thanks for
Jason.
having us, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
day.
Jason. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. That's all we've got time for this week. Like and share the show because it helps us attract really cool guests like these guys. See you next week.